it, or
Oh,
thank
yes.
you, whoever did it. Okay.
And Kathy,
Okay.
something that maybe I wonder if you could clarify for our group, just very briefly. We had quite a few questions in our group, and the reason I think we didn't arrive at kind of a leader
Mhm.
is just kind of what the goal of a meeting would be. Just that it be very like actionable. Are we trying to identify, the actions that be
Mhm.
selected in ClearPath? So that was just kind of a suggestion of nobody really wanted to commit to taking leadership unless they kind of knew what they were trying to work towards.
Yeah, it might be that the time is not right to convene this meeting, or in some cases, like for
Mhm.
the municipalities and governments, for instance, you guys already meet, and
Mhm.
maybe for the ag and land use as well.
Mhm.
Like for citizens, there isn't one already. So it was kind of like a mapping to find out,
Yeah.
are the existing
Mhm.
meetings that are already taking place like sufficient? And if so, can you add
Mhm.
these talking points? If they don't exist, let's say if they're not going to be convening in July, you know,
Mhm.
um, then would you be willing to have a meeting? We don't need to make meetings that aren't needed, but if the
Mhm.
group is not convening already and would benefit from doing so, that was kind of the litmus test to just find out what's the energy around it.
Mhm.
What were you able to stir up? Yeah, so it's not necessarily
Mhm.
a requirement for every group, especially like you guys already have the environmental
Mhm.
management and policy committee meeting, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So that probably does the job, I'm guessing. And you already meet with transportation. Does that
Mhm.
help a little
Mhm.
bit?
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
Mhm.
So back to you, Kathy. Yeah, how did you guys do?
We did okay. We came out with a lot. We came out with a lot of similar um things to what you just said, and that if there is an existing group convening around a topic, we should work with that group. We uh for transit, NERC does convene a transit operators roundtable. This would be probably a small part of their, for most of them. Most of the operators are very tiny. They don't have a lot of people to devote to this type of thing. But Dave will be an ambassador to that group. We'll talk a little bit about what they might contribute or how we might work with them. Um, then we talked about EMPC also maybe pulling aside a sub focus group specifically to talk about things like this effort around air emission type efforts. We talked about that we're already working very closely with Clean Drive Indiana on fleet, municipal fleet turnover and commercial fleet turnover. And so they might be able to help us with not business as usual, but like optimistic and pessimistic future scenarios for electric vehicle adoption and effectiveness of tools. So basically we think we have expert group in that. A lot of what we talked about was the working team should pull together best practices from throughout our region or neighboring areas or neighboring groups like the Center for Community Progress, and then build them in and get some cost benefit, degree of difficulty information, and maybe then talk to the people, the local governments about implementation feasibility or something.
Okay, cool. So that all sounds really positive. And what I'm wondering
Mhm.
too is, since there's some meetings already in place, besides us bringing this
Mhm.
topic to those existing meetings,
Yep.
where it's appropriate to do so, could we also maybe become better
Yep.
curators to make the public aware of
Right.
opportunities where they can engage in those existing meetings? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Okay.
But the one we weren't sure about is the solid waste management, whether they're really a convening themselves or have a working group together or not. And so that's a topic but we know who to ask, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Thank you. Do you feel pretty
Mhm.
complete, or do you have more?
Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Okay, before I move on to the next group, I know at least one person said they had to leave a little bit early for picking up kiddos from school and that kind
Mhm.
of thing. So if anybody does need to leave early, don't worry, it'll be recorded. But could you drop in chat, give us some feedback, what you liked about this meeting, what went well for you, and also we're very receptive to what can go better next time, because this is
Mhm.
kind of new for all of us to do it in this format. So we really, really do want your feedback. And also just
Mhm.
personally, how are you leaving the meeting? You come in feeling one way, and we're on a lot of Zoom meetings. How
Mhm.
are you leaving? So if you want to put that publicly for all to see, we're transparent. We'd love to see that. Or if you feel better just giving it to my attention privately, that's fine too. So please just leave us with that before you go. And then I do want to dial in and make sure we have the right date. If we could share that in chat before everybody starts going away, that would be really nice. So Jen, if you'd be willing to put that, or Kathy,
I think
I
Jen's
guess.
the one. I will, because Jen, I think, is the one that.
Okay. And then out of David's group, yeah, do we have
Find
a
the chat.
spokesperson for you guys that would be willing to tell us how that went?
So I can take it. We didn't assign anyone as such, but we had some really good conversations. So we had some very sort of 30,000 foot sort of conceptual good questions to sort of think about as we sort of move into the planning process. So I don't know that I'd be able to include it all, but it is all saved on our Jamboard. But really, I know that a lot of folks had questions about like, what can towns do for emissions that may or may not originate in their area, and how does that get incorporated into the CAP plan? And then what are local, the big question that we sort of circled around a lot was, what is NERC providing for local communities beyond here is a blanket list of policies that you can go and try, here is what is going on at the regional level. And so, you know, folks from the group can feel free to jump in, but something that we really tried to hit on was, we really want from the regional level and for local communities, because there's so much diversity within Northwest Indiana, how can we tailor these policy menus that we've mentioned a few times now to being more than simply policies? So based on the competing priorities, or based on if a community is in a certain situation or has a certain number of factors, socioeconomic factors going for it, what are the policies that can be provided that are going to be most effective in those specific cases? So I know that that's something that Kathy Luther and Jen and you as well, Kathy Silva, that in my early conversations with everyone, we've really been talking a lot about wanting that to be a goal of the regional plan. We're sort of in a unique place with NERC, because as a regional group developing a climate action plan, there's a lot of different directions and a lot of different things that we can include into the plan. And so we just wanted to kind of talk out what really is the service that we're providing to communities that are within our region. And so that was what we talked about a lot. And so that, I know that we had a lot of great ideas. I know Victoria and Rachel had a lot of good ideas about specifically like these are our concerns, and we're going to take them on board. So really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I know we're coming up on time. Jen, are you still with us, or did you? She might have had to go. Is anybody willing to?
I think I was gonna do.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks, Eric. Thank you.
So we were like the agriculture, forestry, and natural spaces group. There were a couple things already pinned to the board, but just to sort of summarize them, it says include agriculture groups as it applies to land use, and I think there was a good representation there in the group. But you know, just as moving forward, if we're talking to the public and stuff, we should certainly include agriculture. It was brought up just about like some of the data that you have. Maybe this is NERC or David, just including some of the agriculture vulnerabilities, right? So for like loss of water, or as we think about transportation, you know, transportation corridors can impact agriculture, land and water uses. We talked a little bit about zoning and ordinances, that there's a lot of things already on the books that sort of prohibit the idea of growing your own food on your own land, even installing pollinator gardens or not mowing your grass or whatever, those kinds of things that say you can't, you know, you can't have chickens or you can't do this in your front yard. So those kinds of things, if we want to ask people to participate in building climate resiliency, we really need to consider those policies and zoning
Mhm.
Virginia brought up, particularly that zoning is a recurring issue, especially in the agriculture community. Um,
Mhm.
sorry. In that same vein, like
Mhm.
policies and ordinances about trees, you know, I mentioned that we get calls a lot about people saying they're cutting down all these trees, and there's really, most places don't have any ordinance that says you can't, or that you have to replace them, or that you have to have so many trees in your development, or things like that. So that's really important. And then I just wanted to include wetlands and water quality issues. That, you know, we talked about climate migration, and the reason people would come here is because of our water and freshwater resources. As we,
Mhm.
you know, move forward to improve climate resiliency, we just really got to think about those
Mhm.
flood control impacts, and also water quality for our own, you know,
Thank you
drinking
very
water.
much. That was a great report. I know we're almost
Yeah.
at time. I hope you all stick around to hear like our great report from communities. Connie, would you like to speak as our newly appointed leader? Okay, that'd be great if you could give people an update on what we covered briefly.
Just very quickly, we talked about 3 different things. One is to meet in July with Kathy and invite people from different communities, neighboring communities, to who are trying to set up community sustainability groups. I'm from Highland, and we have a very strong one that's going on 3 years now. And we're in touch with people from Munster and Cherville and Porter who are wanting to do the same kind of thing. And so meeting with those people in July with Kathy and seeing how we could work together to strengthen those community sustainability groups. And the second thing was we resurrected that idea of the Speakers Bureau, which we talked about at the last meeting. And maybe our community group would just be the agency that makes a list of people and topics from this group that would want to, you know, be willing to go out into the communities and talk on certain issues. And then the third thing was Green Team Academy, a sort of eco challenge type of idea that Kathy was part of. And maybe we could resurrect that idea and have people in these different communities actually competing with each other to see how they can implement sustainability strategies and see how, I don't know, Kathy, would there be a winner? We would all be a winner if we found a way to become more sustainable or lower emissions.
Yeah, thank you, Connie, for that. And we did agree we would try to meet in July, since that's not a regularly convening group, you know, all these various different places. So we, for one, will do that. Thanks everyone for joining. I know we've gone 2 minutes over, so we really tried to be on time. We did a pretty good job. But thank you for being here. If you didn't already give us your feedback in chat, thank you to everybody who did. You can email us later too if you'd like. Just let us know what went well, what we could improve, and if there's just anything else that we need to know. And as always, who else should be here? We did have in chat when our next meeting is, just to confirm it is Thursday, August 4th, 1 to 3 p.m. So July is the meeting or the month when we are not meeting. So I'm sorry if there was some confusion around that. That's it. If everybody wants to unmute and say hello, goodbye, we just really appreciate you being here. This is exciting to be part of this region, getting this done. Anything else to sign us out, Kathy Luther?
No, I just want to thank everybody for participating, and I think I've really enjoyed these meetings and hearing back from people, but I'm also glad to have a month break so we can catch up on a lot of the work we need to do to give you more to dig your teeth into. And also that's what I hear. The feedback is we need to do more work on what we're offering. So, and I have lots of ideas about that. I just need to do it. So thank you.
Well, many thanks to Kathy for leading this effort. I tell her I'm the leader of the meeting, but she's the leader of like the whole thing, and Jen has been her right hand. So we just really appreciate their leadership on this. Thanks everybody for being here and what you do. Take care. Bye-bye.
Everybody. Bye.